So the SAT and the ACT are in many ways similar tests. There's overlap of content. They're both too darn long. They're both on Saturday mornings. But there's some pretty fundamental differences between the ACT and the SAT. Here are just a few of them, of course. There are a lot more, I think, meaningful differences between the tests. Many students will do equally well on both tests, but there are also a lot of students who are really geared in their experience, in their makeup, in how they respond to stress, in what they know well and what they're naturally good at. Many students who are really likely to do a whole lot better on the ACT than the SAT, or the SAT than the ACT. On our website, we have an FAQ about the differences between these two tests, both in terms of content and also kind of psychologically. And I really encourage you, your son, your daughter, you as a parent, to spend some time and read through this. Now, you guys know yourselves, you know your students, and with some of the insights that we think we can provide you about how these tests work, go through them point by point and think, Sally's more of this, no, she's more of the other, and spend some time exploring the nature of the two tests. And then, and this is really important, take one of each test. Don't take it for real. Don't take it on Saturday. Don't take it when it counts, but take it for practice. Come into our office. Every Saturday and Sunday we administer practice SATs, practice ACTs, practice PSATs. Chances are you've already done a PSAT, and so you have some familiarity with what the SAT is likely to look like. But you probably have less familiarity with the ACT. Again, explore our FAQ, but also sit down and take a practice test, because it's important to actually get some data to help make our decision, but it's also really important for students to be able to experience what these tests really feel like and say, yeah, they're pretty much the same, it doesn't make any difference. Or, yeah, this is really so much more me. I really think I'm going to do a lot better on this ACT thing than I did with the SAT. And we want to respect that. We want to take what are people's natural strengths and build on those. And stepping away from the SAT to take the ACT, there is not a college in the country that will not happily take the ACT in place of the SAT. So explore the SAT, explore the ACT, and really try to figure out which test are you most likely to be successful on. So the short answer is not all tests. We want to figure out the one test. Which month's SAT is the easiest? The easiest SAT is the SAT that you're going to do the best on. The tests themselves don't change. That's why they're called standardized tests. From month to month, from year to year, the tests are designed to generate the same scores for the folks who are taking them. Your test score, though, can change if you take it in January, and that's better time in your life than March is. So what you really want to do is think through your academic year, look at the things that you know are coming your direction, and figure out when you can go and take an SAT or an ACT at a point in your life when you can be both well prepared and have fewer things competing for your time and energy and sleep. So largely, figuring out the right SAT for you is a matter of planning well your calendar. How to plan your testing calendar for the best results. So planning your testing calendar is about two things. One, when are you going to be able to take a test? When you're rested, when you're prepared, when you don't have sports or the school musical or mid-year exams, term paper competing for your time, your sleep, and your attention. The second issue is there a time of the year when the preparation that I'm doing in school for AP Biology is going to serve me well for taking a SAT subject test in biology? Or is the preparation that I could do for the ACT really going to help me with trigonometry in my Algebra 2 trigonometry class? So trying to plan your calendar requires looking a little bit at your academic calendar and thinking about, across sophomore, junior, senior year, what are the classes that I'm going to be taking? What are the subject tests? What are the ACT or SAT that I'm going to take? And how do I align this well? We'll start really briefly. With sophomore year, it makes sense to take a subject test if you can be in a position to do well on a subject test without really having to kill yourself, principally because sophomore year is really all about getting the best grades you possibly can. Certainly that's true for every year of school, but very much sophomore year. If you can take a subject test because, again, you're taking biology and that aligns well with the biology subject test, that's a great idea. But if there's nothing that you're taking in sophomore year that's a particular strength and you don't take a subject test in sophomore year, that is not a problem at all. Junior year, this is when subject tests begin in earnest. Yes, you've taken the PSAT in your sophomore year, but you're not supposed to prep for that. You're just supposed to take and see how it's gone. But now we know they're getting to the PSAT in sophomore year and eventually the SAT or the ACT. So we really want to start thinking about how do we plan our lives to put time in with a tutor, with a class, with a book, working on your own, however it is, so that you can, for 2, 3, sometimes 4 months, give yourself enough time to prepare well for these tests and do your best. So if you're going to take the PSAT in October and take that seriously, taking the SAT sometime thereafter makes a lot of sense. If you're really a crackerjack test taker, you might take it in December if it doesn't compete with your mid-year exams. Or you might take it in January, again, if that's a time when your life is relatively uncluttered by other things that are as, if not more important. So first and foremost, really think about when can I take the SAT or the ACT at a time when I can be well prepared, when I can have taken practice tests, and do it at a time when it doesn't risk doing any damage to those so important junior year grades. At the end of junior year, you're likely to take subject tests if the colleges that you plan to apply to are ones that require subject tests. Senior year will really be about retaking an SAT or an ACT if you have a little bit more work to get over that number that you really need for the schools you're looking at, or you need to take a third subject test because you've decided late that you have in fact fallen in love with Georgetown and they need 3 subject tests when the other schools you were looking at did not. That's pretty much the testing calendar. But as we talked about before, we have choices with the SAT and the ACT. We don't necessarily want to take both. We want to take the one that we're going to do better on. However, it does raise the issue of, which takes us to number 5 of, well, do I have to take subject tests? If you take the ACT, do you still need to take SAT subject tests? So if I take the ACT, do I need to take the subject tests? And the short answer, of course, is maybe. Some universities are happy to accept the ACT in place of the SAT and subject tests. Yale is a lovely example. But there are also many universities that will take the ACT in place of the SAT, but also require 1, 2, in some cases 3 subject tests. So again, you want to do research, you want to know what you're going to face, look ahead a little bit, think about the universities that you're likely to apply to, and then figure out what subject tests you have to take. If the universities that you're really interested in, you've identified a dozen good candidates and none of them require subject tests, well then you're probably okay. But if at least 1, 2, more than that do require subject tests, you're going to be well served to take subject tests so that you maintain your options. Figuring all this out can be a little bit complicated, but we've done some work here to make this easier for you. The college list that we have on our website at www.prepmatters.com, under Educational Counseling, there's a tab on the sidebar, on the left sidebar, Educational Counseling, and then says College List. And again, that's that list we referred to a few pages back about SAT versus ACT and all the score reporting policies. And we have there what's required: 2 subject tests, 3 subject tests. Do a little bit of research, know what you need to take, and then prepare accordingly. Which will bring us along to number 6. What if we're not as prepared as we need to be?